Well, it's time for milkshake. Mmm. This is milkshake with a heavy whipped cream, heavy whipping cream. Half and half that with actual milk in a milkshake. That makes it so much better. And obviously whole milk. Um, because I don't want to enjoy this milkshake alone, I decided to share something with you. Life experience. And I wanted to tell this story. When I was in high school, there was this guy. What should I call him? I should call him, I don't know. Let's call him Gay Man. Don't want to dox people or anything. I was at high school. It was one of the schools where they had for some reason they had like partial middle school. But it was one of those high schools that would advertise itself as a place that would, help people with mental disabilities. But really, it was just some sort of business tactic. You know, it wasn't one of those like horribly abusive schools or anything, but like it was just one of those things that like rich white people would fall for. You know, my parents fell for it, and basically, they thought it was a good idea to, just have any kid who was in any way labeled as some sort of disabled person and, pretend that they can help them. And, you hear all sorts of stories of college dropouts from there and everything. I mean, I suppose, to be fair, that's pretty much everyone, but, but there was this one guy there. And, I don't think this guy is necessarily... I feel like if I had heard that he became a murderer or something, I would have heard about it. But there was this one guy there. And apparently he was there, like, from, 7th grade all the way to senior year. Probably sick of the place. But he was basically this guy who liked to brand himself, gay boy, liked to brand himself as, this funny guy. And, I remember when I first met him, he seemed okay, but basically I found out that he had a history of being, just getting really angry and just being, really bipolar all the time. But I remember, every year there was some person who we did battle with every day who we decided he had a fucking vendetta against. I remember when I was in 10th grade, I started intentionally pushing his buttons. And what happened was, I don't have the thick straws, so I really need. I'm too mentally disabled to figure that out. But I remember it started off where there was this inside joke, and this guy, here's the thing about this guy: he wanted attention all the fucking time, and it was really obvious that was really all his problem was, But the teachers, they would always just brush it off whenever he would have a tantrum, in front of everyone. Even if he would even get away with, making, literal death threats, by the way. And they just didn't even care. And they would just say, oh, stop arguing. And, by graduation, I guarantee you, he hadn't changed whatsoever. And, but, there was basically this inside joke that I made up in, 9th grade that this person, gay boy, thought was funny too. But then, I remember around the beginning of next year, I don't know if it was because some of the seniors who were making the joke left or something and he couldn't get attention, but he started just saying, okay, stop saying that joke, it's old, and some people would say it. But then, it got to the point where, he would, yell and get, really, really pissed off, saying, stop saying that! And, I think the real reason was just because I was the main one saying it and he didn't like me. I remember there was a time where he got wicked pissed at me just because I put the joke in this free writing assignment we had in this substitute class. And he literally started yelling at one of the teachers he's ruining the joke, as if it was a life or death scenario. And and there was another time where he was temporarily kicked out of class because he started just yelling over it. And I remember there were these absolute wuss idiot kids in my class who would just like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I wasn't. I was still, being a bit of a dick, I suppose, by pressing his buttons. But there were these absolute little soy boy cunts who I look back on just absolutely hate, who just like were nice to this guy and would like enable his problems more just by being nice to him and like pretending to be his friend just because they were a bunch of suck up idiots. There was a time where I got in serious trouble at that school for basically making a certain joke in a certain form involving a death threat that I didn't think would be seen as any more of a joke. And I didn't necessarily get in that much trouble, but like they spoke to me, and like this guy though, like every year, like there was a time when he was doing badly in a class, and this is senior year, and in the middle of the hall, he literally yells and says the words, "Who do I have to kill in order to get a good grade in your class?" And like you'll hear other stories that like he would sometimes. And the thing is, like, he always like acted very bipolar. Like he always like he thought of himself as like this funny guy, yet he would not even be consciously aware of how pissed off he would get. And sometimes he would even like mix them so much to the point where like he'd still be smiling as he said like, "I'm gonna kill you" or something. And there was only like one teacher that like remotely cared about trying to tell him to stop, and he just didn't comprehend it. um, But yeah, I remember there was this joke. It was mainly this one involving Osiris. It's kind of hard to explain, but I remember every time I just say the word Osiris, and he had this really fucking high pitched voice too. He was obviously very insecure about it, like everybody is, I think. For some reason, men have this thing where they just cannot stand the fact they have a high pitched voice. I remember there was once this little bitch, little Muslim fuck, this fat kid who was nice to Gay Boy. And this fucking, I hate people like this. Not only was this nice little bitch person, but like I overheard this person at the end of the day gossiping about me and like practically like talking behind my back with a couple of people saying, "Riley's really annoying." And then the next morning, this little fat fuck politely talks to me. He's like, "Riley, I don't think you should say that joke because, you're making my little gay friend have a tantrum, and I don't want to be liked by him because I don't have any self-esteem." And I decided to be nice about it, and I decided to at least try and be nice to that person at the time. And by the way, even when I stopped making that Osiris joke, this high-pitched guy still got mad at me for like every single joke I made because, obviously just had some vendetta because he was jealous that I was getting a slight temporary amount of attention, I guess. And like there were times I remember in senior year where most teachers wouldn't let him get away with this, but whenever there was a teacher that was slightly lenient, I remember it was chemistry class. There was this every class he would just put his head down on the desk, and people would be like, "What's wrong, gay boy? Feeling too gay?" And I forgot I can't say the F word on here. And every time he just like, "What do you think's wrong? I'm barely going to say this horrible thing in my class," and just constantly complaining, not being an adult. And I remember he did this thing sometimes where when he was annoyed at something, he would just like suddenly walk out of the room, like walk out of the classroom out of nowhere, as if that was okay. Like I remember there was a time where I was with my friends and I had my laptop out and I just showed them an image of this sort of meme that they laughed at. And I remember he didn't even see what it was. But for some reason, I guess because he was mad that people were laughing at a joke I made or something, he didn't even know what the image was or what they were laughing about, but he just looked at us and said, "Okay guys, I'm done with you." And then he walked out of the class. And then there was another time where what was it? Where he saw me drinking a Monster Energy drink. I don't really drink those anymore. But for some reason, he just yelled and said, "Is that a fucking monster?" And then he just walked out of the class. um, there's also one of those people who his schoolwork was frankly not that difficult. But this guy, I remember he was one of those people who would joke around in class all the time and like clearly not give a shit or pay attention, even when it was easy to. You know, probably just really meditated or distracted or something. And then, whenever he found out he was getting a bad grade, which seemed to happen more and more sometimes, he would suddenly like just play like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm so serious, I hate this," and yet like immediately when the teacher leaves the room, he would just immediately stop doing any work and stop paying attention at all, just like some sort of emotional fetch up. I remember 10th grade, he hated me, and then like 11th grade, he seemed to cool down. In 12th grade, once again, I don't know if there's a particular trigger for it, but I remember just all of us in senior year were just kind of tired of his shit. Um, and we knew the teachers didn't give a shit. We knew this guy just wanted attention all the time, and they were treating him practically like a baby, just giving candy to a baby constantly. And like he would always just be a fucking drama queen over everything. Like he would either like one day he'd just be smiling, and the next minute you bring up something and he would act like it's the end of the fucking world. You know, I remember there was this thing, you know, like school is supposed to at least make you think you're supposed to get a job from it somehow. Um, well, I remember there was this 2 week program where they would let you intern, not make any money with a job in like the last month of school. And give you job experience. And I remember this guy, apparently, like the year before ours, there was some sort of artsy douchebag, probably some fake professional artist, who was like the cool artist. And if you got a job, if you got to work with that guy for your job, that was like you'd be awesome. And there was this guy there who got to like make his own little character, and he drew this douchebag and drew this is my character, and this is the explanation for him, and something to make you feel like you're a real artist. And I remember apparently whoever this professional artist was, though, he wasn't there. He left the area or whatever. He stopped supporting our school with it. And apparently this guy thought that he was going to work with him or something, and he went on like this sudden monologue about it in the middle of class once. When he was like, and he starts like not only getting pissed off about the fact that the guy was no longer there, but he starts like even like ranting about that person, saying he's fucking idiot and ass. I remember I had like no idea who that even was, who he was talking about. But and I remember sometimes like he would just go like suddenly if you brought up something that annoyed him. Sometimes he would even say things I agreed with, but he would just go in like a fucking monologue. He was just like the most triggerable person in the world. He was one of those people who like always complained about like social justice warriors and stuff, it was beginning the age, despite the fact that he was like the most triggerable emotional person on earth. It was just like the most like seriously, there was a time I remember in high school where he suddenly, because somebody made a joke involving trans people and pronouns, he suddenly got triggered and went in suddenly in the middle of class. He just stood up and yelled and like for like a minute just went into this monologue saying, "Oh my god, these fucking trans people, they don't fucking do anything. Just stop." And I remember the teacher just responded to him calmly and said, "Why don't you just call him what you want to be called?" And then he yelled at the teacher and just said, "No, just judge it by their genital." He just said that to the teacher. Well, it's a pretty crazy story. I remember once when he was mad at me, like one of the last weeks of school, we were playing this very low-key baseball. Gym class would only end up having like 5 people in it. And we played some form of baseball for like, I don't know, like 30 minutes or less. And for some reason, to him, it was suddenly this big competitive game. Well, it is a competitive game, but for some reason, whenever I was up doing anything like pitching or playing or whatever, he would just suddenly yell a bunch of things, and everyone was just ignoring it because we were just tired of him. But he was just like, "Oh my god, Riley's doing it. He's gonna suck dick. He's fucking horrible." And then the guy who keeps talking shit about me, like 5 minutes later, he suddenly just walks away just leaves gym class out of nowhere without saying anything and just stops participating. Um, I heard a rumor that on his first day of school, he like physically tried to attack somebody. He got mad at some person in his class. He just like charged at him and almost attacked him. Mmm. Mmm. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Probably just like every other graduate from that school, you know, dropped out of college, living with his parents. Not me, but you know, I remember every single year actually he had this sob story where he would claim, I don't know if there was any truth to this, he would claim that the mental help from that school saved him from suicide. Well, they definitely didn't do that much for him because he seemed absolutely the same to me for like literally 4 years. Just, always constantly bipolar. Nobody gave a shit. He's probably still like that. Like, even, like, I remember there was a time in class where we were asked to just write an assignment of something that happened in our summer vacation. And, he had some story about how he started some fucking fight with his cousin over nothing. Like, everything about this guy. It was just always constant arguments, constant fighting, getting pissed over nothing, and wanting attention constantly, and having a tantrum every time he didn't get attention. Um, Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy indeed. But don't hear it from me. I'm just the messenger.